What's going on, guys? Evan here, bringing you some more Go Battle League battles. This time across both the Ultra and the Ultra Premier League. Still doing auto rekt. I've had some ups and some downs in Ultra, like everybody else. Ultra's tough. XL Mons, you know, Empoleon Double Dragon, etc. Can be very tough in a lot of ways. But going in with this first team of Gyarados, Registeel, and Aggron in Open Ultra, which Aggron is a bit of a rare sight there, so that's kind of cool. Gyarados, despite having no dragon typing and the super effective dragon breath in this matchup, it's actually still a little bit awkward, especially when you get ancient powered by maybe the only Giratina running ancient power in the entirety of the Ultra League. So I go for this crunch and it gets shielded, and I immediately go into Registeel to try and draw out some kind of a fighter. But they're staying in with a Dragon Breath Giratina, so that tells me that maybe they're a little bit weak to Steel in the back. Registeel is a little bit more accessible now because the raids that just ended, so XLs are out and about for that. And they come in with Mewtwo, and the only good reason to come in with Mewtwo against a Registeel is if you have Dynamic Punch, so I'm expecting them to have that. Going for this Flash Cannon because, of course, Focus Blast is resisted. So no shield, Armored Mewtwo, super tanky in the Ultra League. I'm expecting this to be a Dynamic Punch, and I know that it won't KO, but I'm going to shield it anyway, just so I don't get farmed down by confusions. I throw this Flash Cannon just a little bit early. I maybe could have got off an extra lock-on or two, but I think that with the confusion animation being so long that I should be in a decent spot. So I'm not going to shield this. I'm expecting to maybe just barely make it to the next Flash Cannon. Actually, going to make it pretty comfortably. I throw it right at the end of, or right at the start of the confusion there, because I know that this is either going to get a shield or take it out. And since they had no good response to a Steel type, I'm going to immediately go into Aggron. And it's met by a Scissor, which is kind of a curious matchup. The Bullet Punches are doing neutral, and the Nightshade's Night Slash is going to add up, especially if you can spam them off pretty quickly, especially if it gets the boost. So that is the number one reason why you don't shield that first Night Slash, because if they get the boost, they can really go to town, and they double boost. So now these Bullet Punches are absolutely chunking, despite being only neutral against Aggron because of the Steel and Rock typing. But I pick up the final shield, which is really good. Now, because his health is so low, I can come in here with either of these one-turn Pokemon and fast move it down before it can get a move off, which is a little bit unfortunate for them. This Giratina probably lost track of the energy that I have because it's very hard to count those one-turn fast moves. So he throws way earlier than he needed to, and I'm able to come in with my Gyarados and Dragon Breath down. So a very good game there. Double boosted Scizor, definitely scary there at the end. Luckily that one-turn fast move mechanic kind of saved the day. So now this is probably in the Ultra Premier League because I really wouldn't want to use Gallade in Open Ultra. So going up against this Charizard, Fire Spin Charizard is less bad than if it were, say, a Wing Attack. And I bring in Aggron, which is the hard counter here. And for some reason, they let me stay in way too long. Maybe they lagged a little bit. They lag a little bit with the Venusaur here. But staying in, that energy is not worth the double super effective smackdowns. So I go ahead and take that Frenzy Plant, hoping that I could survive. I wasn't certain, but I was pretty sure. So throwing the Stone Edge, I don't think this would KO, but it gets a shield anyway, which is fine with me, because now I can come in and 2-shield Gallade and have a bunch of energy left over there. Sneak a Confusion through. Typically, if you're the Venusaur in this scenario, you should just throw a Vine Whip or maybe two so that you don't give your opponent 4 full turns of free energy. Um, and they probably have two back to back here, but because that confusion went through, it is going to knock them out unless they swap. So they don't swap, and it goes down, and I immediately throw the Leaf Blade, and very lucky that this Charizard threw a Fire Spin instead of just immediately tapping the Blast Burn, because now I'm able to win the CMP tie against it and throw this second Leaf Blade, which will KO, which means that my Shiftry should be safe in the back, especially when it's a Machamp and they leave the game, because Gallade is just an absolute wall to Machamp. So really curious why they didn't bring in Machamp against my Aggron safe swap, if you can call it that. But moving into this next game, Typhlosion and Machamp pretty neutral for the most part. Immediately going to go into Gallade because I just so happen to have Gallade and Gengar in the back to cover that. So it's some of these matchups are a little bit tough because my Gallade has Synchro Noise and I haven't had the heart to get rid of that Community Day move. So I'm going to fake a close combat here, hoping to get the shield. In reality, I probably should have faked with the Leaf Blade like everybody else would, because it does get shielded. And now at this point, because I got that shield, I'm just going to let this go. Because I know that Typhlosion is going to be able to resist everything that Abomasnow has, and I'm going to be able to get a great head start on energy here. And I sneak that final Incinerate through, so that's going to KO the Abomasnow. Even if it has two, I lost track of its energy, but even if it has two, it's going to go down. So I let that go down, and now that this Machamp comes back, it is going to be trapped between two Blast Burns. This is probably a Cross Chop, but I'm just going to shield it anyway. Cross Chop wouldn't take me out from this range, but I don't want to get so low that I miss out on all this energy I've built up. Throwing this first one, expecting them not to shield. But it does get the shield, which is really odd. So I immediately throw the second one, not knowing what's in back. So second Blast Burn connects, takes out the Machamp, and it's a Politoed in the back. Not sure why they didn't just go straight into Politoed. But I guess in theory, my Gengar would have had a great matchup against both, and I would have just launched a Solar Beam at the Politoed anyway and maybe got a shield. And now at this point, because they're throwing this energy immediately, I'm just going to let this Gengar go. Maybe I could have gone to a Shadow Ball and done some Shadow Ball, Shadow Punch plays to win the game, but I was fully committed to Solar Beaming this Politoed with a Typhlosion. So if I can beat it to the race, Mudshot is incredibly spammy with that Weather Ball and able to get to it one turn before I think that Politoed was about to finish that Mudshot and have the Weather Ball there. So I wasn't sure if this would take it out because Politoed is super tanky, but able to take that game as well. So good game to my opponent there. Unfortunate that my Typhlosion is running Solar Beam, I suppose. So first matchup here, going up against nothing, because the game, who knows what? I've never actually seen this glitch before, but it is a Venusaur. I can tell by the typing in the top right. You know, I can also tell it's not a Roserade or Victory Bell because of the damage output with how Fine Whip works. So, because it's a Venusaur, I don't really have a top-notch response to it in the back, especially when shields are up. It's a little bit awkward for Shifter to come in there. My Feraligatr does have Ice Fang, so you know it's going to be kind of hitting for super effective. It's still not a great matchup in Feraligatr's favor, but you can kind of shield your way through that and really put some pressure on that Venusaur. So I'm counting the fast moves here, and I throw this Night Slash, hoping that they don't shield, so that I'll have energy for whatever is in the back as well, assuming that I'll be able to see it. But they do shield, and I'm able to get to the second Night Slash anyway. Throw that. This is going to take out the invisible Venusaur. So I take that out, and in comes a Pokemon I'm actually able to see, and it's Kingdra. So I really wanted to make it to that close combat, but I didn't even get to make it to the Night Slash, so that is not great. A Venusaur and a Kingdra, I have almost no idea what could be in the back. I'm thinking maybe an Empoleon or a Swampert. So I bring in this Ice Fang for Alligator just to hit this Kingdra with some neutral damage, and I know that I could maybe make it to the crunch anyway, but they get the debuff, of course, on the Octazooka, so I immediately go into Shiftery. This Leaf Blade I really thought would be enough. Maybe in the past with level 39, level 40 Kingdras it would have been, but it's not even close now. So I'm going to pretty much commit to the snarling this thing down because they threw that first Octazooka. I'm assuming that maybe they'll just throw another one. And they do throw another one, and I'm praying I don't get the debuff, and I do. So now I can't snarl down. So I'm going to throw this Leaf Blade. Really odd that they haven't swapped into whatever's in the back, assuming it might be a Swampert, and it's a Gyarados. A Waterfall Gyarados at that. So getting off this Leaf Blade here would have been really nice if it wasn't debuffed, and there's a case to be made that I should have tried to maybe wait out the timer, although now looking at it, I don't think I would have. So Ice Fang for Alligator, going to come back in here, able to hit with neutral damage because of Gyarados flying typing. This is probably a crunch, but I do live it. So I'm just going to overfarm here like crazy to make sure that I can get off as much damage as I can while counting their waterfalls, because you never know with some of the invisible fast moves. But able to barely Ice Fang out that Gyarados. If it was on Dragon Breath, this would probably be a different story. So good game there. Jumping into this next game, running back in Open Ultra, Registeel. Oh, I remember this game. Registeel and Ferrothorn, great lead. They swap Machamp, and I immediately go into Mew, and my opponent backs out. Which, to be fair, was probably the right play because my Mew does have Flame Charge, and if Flame Charge got going, that would have been game over anyway. So Dragonite and Galvantula is a little bit of an odd matchup because of the neutral electric moves, and I've seen a lot of people asking about whether Dragon Tail or Dragon Breath is better right now, and I'm running Dragon Tail only because I want to try and be able to sneak those fast moves in. So if I can sneak in a full Dragon Tail, that's a lot more beneficial than sneaking in an extra Dragon Breath. The counter argument is having that one turn fast move to be able to fast move down something that has residual energy but very, very low HP. But Dragon Tail Dragonite is putting in a ton of work right now. I built up to the Hurricane even though I don't have it because I don't want to spend the dust on it. And it collects that first shield from the Umbreon, so really good that we're back on shield parity. So I was a little nervous at this point that they would have snarled me down. I think that they could have, but they're throwing, so I'm just going to let it go. Dragonite's already put in a ton of work. And with Galvantula in the lead, they're pretty weak to rock and fire. So I bring in my Swampert, and it is a water type in the back to combat those rocks and fire types. So pretty good idea to bring in the Swampert there and let the Venusaur go to town against this Politoed. So they shield that first one up, and this is nowhere near a Blizzard. So I like that shield on the Politoed's part, but not having Blizzard or not having Blizzard energy, I think was a mistake. I don't have a Polytoad ready for the Ultra League. I'm speaking from Great League experience in that moment. When I run actual teams and I run Polytoad, I use Blizzard as a Polytoad safe swap, and it does a very, very good job luring out those grass types and still getting a shield from them. So I'm just gonna let Venusaur go. I assumed that I lived it, but I didn't really matter because I knew I'd Swampert anyway. That would have been able to win this game, but able to get this Frenzy Plant here and take this game. So GG's, very well played in that last match. So moving into the final game, I have Machamp, which I wanted to put in the lead, Feraligatr and Togekiss. And because I don't like running Charm, I'm actually running an Air Slash Togekiss with only Flamethrower, so a little tough to work around, but shouldn't be too bad. Feraligatr, I don't think has really any good coverage against Machamp's weaknesses, except for this. And maybe except for Dragonite, but even in that instance, it has Rock Slide still. So this is an okay matchup for Machamp. I assumed they're going to bait here, so I call it, and they do. I throw this Rock Slide because I'm thinking it's probably just going to get a shield anyway, but if it doesn't, that would be really nice. So I throw the Rock Slide, and because I'm debuffed, I kind of want to get out of here, and I go into Togekiss, which is a little bit of a questionable choice. But I know this is going to be an Icy Wind, and I'm just going to let it go. So I'm assuming that I can outpace him to the next move. He's now 1 away. I think this might have been a CMP tie. I assume that Togekiss wins CMP because it has a much higher CP total. So I throw that Flamethrower, and it is a CMP tie, and I'm perfectly content with letting this go. Because now I can come back in here with that supposedly not so helpful Feraligatr and Ice Fang all the way down. Even if I got Icy Winded here, I would have been fine because I could have just swapped back out to Machamp. Machamp is a pretty good generalist as long as you can avoid Glades. So farming up a pretty decent amount here against this Talonflame, expecting them to shield and probably rip off a Brave Bird. But they don't shield, and they just completely let it go down, relying entirely on this Clefable. So I'm kind of watching the health bar, watching the Hydro Cannon energy charge, and I'm able to get to 2. And I fully know that they're not going to throw a charge move because they don't want me to sneak through any extra fast moves. And at this point, I throw the second Hydro Cannon, and you're going to see me not swap out from this Feraligatr because the charm does so much less to Feraligatr than it would to Machamp that I was really nervous about transferring that energy onto a Machamp, which might have lost me this game. So this cross chop was a little bit unnecessary because I probably could have just countered down, but you know, it's a charmer, so I get to add a little insult to injury.